Nebraska high school newspaper shut down after story on LGBTQ plus pride. Northwest Public School in Grand Island, Nebraska, has banned its award-winning newspaper, the Viking Saga. The school shut down the publication in May after the paper released an LGBTQ plus issue. In a horrendous case of deadnaming, the newspaper deadnamed student Marcus Pennell after school district officials insisted on students using their names and pronouns assigned to them at birth. Marcus told the Grand Island Independent, quote, "That was a big deal for me. It was the first time the school made me feel like they didn't want me there," end quote. Northwest Public Schools' censorship of LGBTQ content in their newspaper is just a part of the problem. It highlights a bigger issue where older generations are pushing outdated notions onto the children who genuinely want a platform to express themselves, share new information, and explore the world around them. Sarah Rips, legal counsel for ACLU of Nebraska, told the Grand Island Independent, quote, "Student journalism teaches students how to discern and investigate, build effective work based on verifiable facts and policies. It sounds like a ham-fisted attempt to censor students and discriminate based on disagreement with perspectives and articles featured in the student newspaper," end quote. Wow, so freedom of speech goes out the window here, right? Because the newspaper is a sanctioned group event, right, by the school. And you're just basically teaching these students, these future journalists, these future authors and writers like yourself, Greg, that they don't matter, that they don't count, that their opinions mean nothing, and that they should be silent.
And it's unbelievably sad and sickening that the school board chose to shut down the paper. Talk about the ultimate in fascist censorship. It's unbelievable. 54 years the paper had been in existence, and they couldn't.
Award-winning.
I know.
The proof of that observation for me, I always try to understand what is being hurled at LGBT by applying it to other minority and diversity communities that have faced similar struggles. So in this instance, I take this exact same situation and move that school to 1968. And the high school newspaper writes an article about the civil rights movement and talk about what is happening on Black civil rights and them reporting on the atrocities that were taking place in 1968. If the school and the school board would have banned the newspaper for that, clearly this would move into district, federal, and the Supreme Court on whether they could do that or not. It seems to me then the case is proven that this is a capricious act against LGBT because they don't want the content of conversation. And if that's the case, then we very likely are watching a legal trend here, because courts have ruled, even on student levels, in student newspapers, it's mostly had to do with college newspapers, that the reporter has a right to free speech, and that when he reports, the actual newspaper moves into gray areas of managing their communication process. And I'm sure that that's what's going to happen here. And you can't manage speech in this way because you can't manage speech. And they take it to the only way that they could manage it, by banning it.
Well, and bringing up the civil rights fight again. LGBTQ rights are civil rights, and yet we're being trampled in ways that wouldn't have happened.
You
in
might
68.
not like the let's say woke. It's not that. But let's say this woke characteristic that DeSantis has been so good at branding, as good as don't say gay on our side. This woke thing that he has been able to suggest is to say, don't use pronouns, and we're going to stop you from doing that. You can't. If I choose to say my pronoun is her, I get a right to use the pronoun her. You can't regulate my speech. Now, you can ban the newspaper to ensure that my pronoun is not written in your newspaper. But there's a very, very good chance that the ACLU is going to pick this up. It's going to be carried and carried to a judge's conclusion, and they're going to lose. The question is, how long will it take to get to that moment?
And because these are students and litigation is so expensive and it's protracted and long and lengthy and tiresome, I wonder who's going to take up the space and actually stand up for these students and say, we as adults or we as a community want this newspaper to exist.
I wish we had a lawyer at our table.
Wait, the snappy dresser.
Did I just walk?
Right?
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.